which means one has a crescent moon on her forehead. So this goddess had a crescent moon on her forehead, so that is why we call her Chandra Ghanta. Okay, and she's the third manifestation of goddess Durga and represents beauty and bravery. So yes, and she rides on a tiger and wears red clothes. So yes, this third day of Navratri is has the color red, which dedicates and symbolizes power. So yeah, and she has 10 arms and various weapons in her hand. So red color, Chandra Ghanta, and which depicts power. So 3 pointers for day 3 of Navratri. And yes, so while we talk about the Navratri colors, today's session is based on integrating colors in architecture and architecture photography. And for the same, we have none other than Nakul Jain. He's the second time coming to our platform, and I'm blessed to have him for the exact prompt topic which is there. So yes, we're discussing integrating colors in architecture with Nakul Jain, who's an architect, an architecture photographer, and a filmmaker. So let's gear up and invite him to our session. By the time Nakul is joining us, we have the comment section open for the questions that you want to ask, and maybe anything that you want to share about Navratri and your experience during these 9 days. Can civil engineers do architecture work? Yes, you need to learn a lot and get the habit of understanding designs, what have projects and designs that have already been done with with the hands of architects, and then eventually you can learn doing that. Hi Nakul, I have invited you to the session. Please accept the request. Okay, so we have one more fact from the comment section that in Telangana, biggest festival in Navratri, the biggest festival of Navratri is Bathukama festival. Okay, so in Telangana, in South, we celebrate the festival which is Bathukama festival, and it is the biggest festival of Navratri. That's nice. I don't know why are we still facing issues getting him on board with us. Hi.
Hi.
Yeah. This Instagram is not behaving good with us. It's not, understanding our 9 days of live sessions. Every day we have something.
I think it's the Navratri fever.
Yeah, maybe Instagram is also celebrating.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Nakul, for being a part. And we're very excited to learn more about architecture photography and colors. So
I'm glad to be here.
So before we start, I would like to know, how are you celebrating your Navratri and what makes Navratri special for you?
Well, I think how I'm celebrating is by not eating non-veg. That's the simplest of things that I'm doing. But it's just the nice time of the year. I feel Navratri, somehow the weather starts to change and the summer is gone, the winter is coming in. It's just a nice vibe overall. People, I find, are happier, more colorful, which is the topic today, and it just triggers a lot of nice emotions, I would say. So just the thought of Navratri is actually very nice.
Actually, it's the start of the Indian festive season. It's the start of that beautiful winter vibes. It also starts during Navratri. So yes, overall, it's a very happy experience everywhere.
Yeah, comfortable and happy. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So coming to our topic, first question that I have for you is, when it comes to photography, what do you think is importance of colors in architecture?
Uh, um, when you first discussed about this topic, I was actually thinking what should I say and what I should not say, because everything essentially is based on our perception of color. Everything that we know, everything that we see, from whatever we've grown in, from every environment that we've grown in. And India particularly is a colorful country.
Yeah.
So it's inevitable to sort of not see color wherever you go in this country. And that reflects in its architecture as well, be it Rajasthan, be it Gujarat, be it even Kerala. So all of these places have, as soon as you think of a state, you start to think of a certain color that you associate with that state as well. So from the macro to the micro, your space, your likings of a color, your favorite wall of your house, that public building around your house, right? The play of colors is something that we've grown up with, and we are very much, it's very deep rooted in our culture, I feel, and even religion and culture, both.
Yeah.
So, colors play a very, very important role for all type of understanding. So, these sort of things, I think, have to transcend into architecture. And that is where I feel where is architecture without color? So photography happens later, but even the whole perception of starting to look at buildings and appreciating buildings starts with the understanding of color, and of course light and all of these things and all that. After that, we come to the question of photographing architecture. Yeah.
That very well framed answer, and I think like this is the perfect time to talk about the Indian culture and
Yeah.
goes with respect to colors. So yeah, it is actually the Navratri answer. It's a very
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So the that I have for you is, can you share a specific instance where the careful use of color significantly influenced the narrative and visual impact of architectural projects in your photography?
Okay. Um, See, before I entered photography, so I'm an architect by profession, of course. So during college, we we were made to travel to different places, and we were made to observe. We were made to sometimes click images and sometimes draw what we see. So there was one thing in common where there was a very well implemented use of color. Our eyes would draw attention towards it, and it was very natural for us to have an extra gaze for something which was well colored and coordinated color. I wouldn't say over colored, and
True.
also when color was misused, you would look at it and you would see
Mm.
ki, this is too much, this is too bright. If, for example, if you go to Daman and Diu, in those areas, the houses are brightly colored. Like, one will be pink, one will be orange, one will be like yellow, like completely yellow, with blue windows, with green windows, and yellow buildings. When you see a school building, you sort of accept it, that okay, color as a tool of education. But when you see other buildings, then your perception of color starts to kick in. So all of these observations were already built into our ideas. And then when I went into photography and when I started to travel for work and otherwise, there are two instances where I really felt moved with the use of color. One was when I was traveling to Barcelona, and this was just before COVID happened, and I went to Sagrada de Familia. So Antonio Gaudi's work is anyways admirable and talked over all over the world. And I had a dream in my architecture college to sort of visit that place. And when I went there, I spent good almost like half a day just going around, going around the place and observing everything. Everything was grand. There was stained glass. The use of, otherwise the pillars, everything is in stone,
Yeah.
right? And colors of stone, yes, but there's sandstone, there's red granite and things like that. But the entire space is so colorful because of the use of stained glass, and the sun would pierce through the stained glass. It would create different hues on different walls. So it was such a magical sight that my camera was always up. It was always looking up because there were so many beautiful colors happening. It was like a colorful sky because Gaudi thought to make it so tall that, it's like a tree and you're in a jungle. The pillars are like a tree and all that. So there is a lot of iconism or symbolism in his work. And the use of color through a material, architectural material, say glass, is so prevalent that all you experience is like color, right? Nature inside a built form. So how the use of color was able to get inside the building was something which was very intriguing, and I had some wonderful pictures which I think I have posted somewhere on this profile. And that was something that really moved me. So this was obviously non-commissioned. This was for my own thing, and I was
Yeah.
traveling. Very recently, I got the opportunity to photograph a house designed by Firki Design Studio. They're based in Noida, and they happen to be
Okay.
seniors from my college, so we're an alumni network. But I went to Durg, near Bhilai, to photograph this house. And it's a small house, but after a really long time, I was actually able to see all the floors were brightly colored, something which is not very common. I cannot share images on this platform today,
Yeah.
but those images are going to come up soon on the profile. But so this was like the colorful outsides. The house was in a busy street. So the brief that I was discussing with the architect was that, this is a very colorful area. Like, people are from different areas, religions and all that. It's a small house and it's in a busy street. So we want to get the feeling of the street inside the house. So how do you get that? One of the translations is through color. So they had, while they come up the stairs, they had green on the floor. Then they had yellows, they have blacks, they have reds, they have blues, bright, not the subdued pastels that you see every day, the bright colors. And that is where, so Barcelona was one time my camera was looking up. This time during a commercial photography shoot, my camera was all looking down because uh, I couldn't help myself but to capture the color that was so beautifully placed inside an entire house. And this was 3 levels, so there was courtyard, so there was colors jetting in. So we tried to shoot something which showed all the colors in one palette, and we were able to sort of do something like that. So the exploration then became capturing color inside a house. So both of these examples are a little different, but really how, when the right color happens in architecture, you're
Somewhat
moved by it.
these pictures because it's something that I cannot imagine all the floors being colored with very
Oh, yes.
bright, bright shades. It's
Stay
something
tuned
very.
for the images. They will come soon.
I think it's not just architects or architecture students that focus on colors. I remember like last week I was in Thailand, so I was traveling to this old Phuket town, and old Phuket town is just famous for all the colorful houses that they have. So there's an old Phuket town row, and all the both the sides we have a avenue of colorful houses. All the
Right.
houses look the same, all different colors, and just because of that one particular alley, that area is so famous that everybody knows that.
Yeah.
Okay, I saw these young kids looking at the houses and saying, "Oh, this is where I want to take a picture," and I saw these old people looking at these houses that there's something nice. So I think color attract a nice use of colors attracts everyone.
Yes, exactly. And that is something to be understood. And before we go ahead with the other questions, I want to point out that since I am in the business of sort of exploring a lot of architecture
Yeah.
through my photography, and I get commissioned to shoot projects and all that, um, we've suddenly started to ape the Scandinavian color palette somewhere. You know, the color palette of off whites and beige and grays and muted pastels of say greens,
Yeah,
blues, and a bit of yeah. So a lot of architecture is influenced. It's sad to say that a lot of architecture is suddenly influenced by these sort of colors suddenly around you. Everybody want a Europe in their house or their building, and I want to urge that that's not the color palette that we are in. We are in a very different atmosphere, a very different environment. So we have to embrace color in a certain way. And there's, of course, there's beauty to being white, you know,
yeah.
there's beauty to being black, but the interjection of color has to be very thoughtful and mindful. And my heart lies in projects where I see something like that. So that is where I get very excited.
That's true. I think, but now everybody's trying to take the safe color palette,
Yes, exactly. So the safe palette, that's what I'm referring to as
and
the
that's
Scandinavian maybe,
why
but yeah,
I see that everywhere, not just architecture.
yeah.
I was
In the
like
clothes,
previous month,
Zara, you
previous
visit a Zara or an H&M showroom.
it's the, like I was going through this website development of my page. So
Okay.
all the color palettes I was seeing was pastel, 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 pastel. I said, okay,
Yeah.
let's go with this. It's the safer thing. So yeah, we have eventually taken that. We're too much influenced with that safer color palette,
Yes,
and
I think it's damaging somewhere. We're losing. I'd say it takes courage to put color in your work now.
it does.
You know, it takes a very clear idea of what you're doing, and if somebody has that, it's brilliant. No, why not? Because colors do help evoke emotions, right? They
Remember
if
in my years, we used a lot of colors, but by the time I was, finishing my architecture degree, we started making architecture illustrations with those 5 shades of pastel colors.
yeah,
So that was
yeah.
evolution also, trying colors and then finally getting into a subtle thing that doesn't, is very, it is actually pleasing to the eyes, but not very experimental that we should be working with.
Yeah, yeah. And why not, you know? The nature is colorful around us. We've just tried to sort of make ourselves invisible somewhere. Let's make ourselves visible. So yeah.
While you, like, as you're an architecture photographer, it uh, I think the one of the biggest challenges is to bring forward the original idea of the architect and the original design intent of the architect while you shoot and while you take the pictures. So what is your approach towards it when we have different variety of colors there, or when you, I mean, I need to understand both the examples. First, when we have a lot of colors, and what is the intent behind the designer that have used, and the other example that we were talking about, that how do you enhance the safe color palette and show it in
Yeah.
your picture.
I think as an architectural photographer, my first idea is to show what the architect has done. And if it's a safe color palette, be it a safe color palette. If it's a colorful place, then so be it. So the approach is always to be able to remain true to the best of my ability, because sometimes you really have to. It's not about taking pictures. I've come to understand that architectural photography is about creating images of architecture, and it's not just about taking pictures of architecture. So a lot of times we have to do certain manipulations to make the image stand out
Yeah.
and convey what it really has to convey. Sometimes there's clutter that we have to clean. Sometimes there is marks on the walls that is unnecessary. There are these little things that we have to modify. But well, when capturing something which has less color, uh, light becomes all the more important. It is always important, but light becomes all the more important, because that is where you actually are able to see the surfaces. Otherwise, there's no division. So the right light, the right lighting conditions, or the time of day then becomes very important. Or if there is a texture, then the focus shifts from just display of color to texture. Of course, there's just not color, right? There are things, there are materials, there are objects, there is materiality that we have to show. So all of these will ultimately depend on the sort of lighting that we're playing with. Sometimes we prefer to just capture something in the natural light. Sometimes the architects are very specific that no, we want to showcase the artificial lighting that we've done because that's where the color stands out, even if it's a safer palette, right? So all of these balances happen when we discuss something with the architect. But and similarly for color, where we can create moods. Now, where there is color already, then there is a possibility of creating even more moods, right? With dull, dim lighting, with just a bit of the say the tint, playing with the tints or playing with the daylight or the artificial light again. So approach remains same to remain the to be able to remain true to what the space really is and what it feels to me. So but yeah, things change when there is color and there is not. And lighting plays a very important role there.
Okay. And
Yeah.
do you this and like is there any particular architecture style or time period that you find that it is very compelling in terms of color?
Okay. I think there are lots. In every time period, there has been something or the other that has been compelling. Overall, I would say Victorian era was very colorful. If we go to Victorian era is basically these 1800s towards 1700s to 1800s, Queen Victoria. So that time when the India has lots of buildings, Victoria Memorial in Kolkata, and even though it stands out as a white building, but inside it's decently colorful, and all these British buildings which were built during that time and the other period. But of course, just not that, Indian architecture, Rajasthani style of architecture, the use of colors in Jodhpur, and you go to Gujarat, Aina Mahal in Bhuj. Like these
Hmm.
places have such brilliant use of color, and Sheesh Mahal in Jaipur, and you go towards the south, Kerala, Madurai, the temple entirety on the outside, So it will be bad or incorrect to say one period of time. Uh, Ottoman architecture is there. There's a Gothic architecture has a separate palette per se, right? And so it will be not correct to say one period of time. Uh, Popular culture suggests Victorian era was very colorful. I would say everything is very colorful because there are some people who would always appreciate and include color in their work. Gaudi, for example.
And these traditional architecture influences your photography.
Sorry.
Does the traditional
What was it?
architecture influence your photography, the style you take photographs or your thought behind the photograph? Does it affect your or influence your photography?
Um, Traditional architecture per se. See, what we are creating images of today, there's always a balance between going commercial and trying to do what I want to do with the project. Traditional architecture, I don't know how to connect these dots right now. I don't understand how traditional architecture would actually change my idea of clicking an image for projects today because they're very different. When suppose I'm traveling to a place where these are old buildings or heritage buildings, so I was working with Intac for a year and a half after I did architecture. I went to a lot of old buildings.
Okay.
I won't say traditional example, but old buildings which were in sometimes in bad shape, dilapidated conditions. So I did a lot of photography then also. It is a different feeling because of the type of architecture and arches, and very different sort of things which sometimes you don't get to see in the modern or the contemporary sort of architecture. So I don't know where to connect the dots for this one.
So does that happen with you as well when you look at a picture, like not clicked by you, but any
Okay.
picture on Instagram, or maybe about it's architecture, photography, any building, any famous building, maybe interiors. That if this picture, if this was done, maybe you're imagining it with some other angle, or
Of
maybe when
course.
you were studying architecture, so were you imagining pictures in a 360 degree that okay, if this was the angle, it would look like this.
Yeah, of course. Sometimes yes, sometimes no, because I do this all the time during my work. That I have, while you're standing in front of a building and the decision to place the camera here at this time of the day, it's not easy. It's a question on your ability every time that you're clicking a picture, right? Because you could move an inch here or 1 feet away or 1 meter away or 10 meters away. Where does that decision come from, right? Where do you place the camera and how high from the ground? How,
So,
where will you place it?
I think a little inches also makes a lot of difference in a photograph.
It can make a difference because sometimes a certain perspective is incorrect in one way and you're hiding something behind a pole. So just moving 6 inches on one side, the pole would get cleared off your building, something. So these little things always play a role. So when I'm looking at an image, probably I just give my brain a rest that, okay, whatever it is this. If I like it, great. If I don't like it, then I have my reasons that it should have been like this.
Because
But
I have seen people actually giving a lot of thought on one particular picture, especially people interested in photography. So one
yeah.
picture is a lot to discuss on.
Of
So
course there is. Of course there is. When you're in the zone to sort of learn from the image or critique it. See, the process of critiquing is always either learning from it or making somebody else learn from it, right? So
yeah,
when that happens, it happens a lot with images, of course. Maybe I'm doing it very subconsciously and I'm unable to tell you, but I think I'm going through that process because I keep critiquing my own work also. So when I'm looking at it, I'm like, why didn't I move the camera like this? Why did the light happen like that? Why didn't the color come out like that? So yeah, of course,
uh,
that conversation is always there.
architects
Sorry?
are always architects are always okay with redos, but I think architecture photography doesn't have any redos. One click and it's done. You cannot go back.
Generally, you can't go
Yeah.
back. Sometimes you have to.
Yeah. Okay, so can
Yeah.
you recall a challenging project where achieving the desired color representation was particularly complex, and how did you overcome it?
Okay. I remember this was in the initial days, approximately 10 years ago when I was shooting something. I actually shot an Apple store in Connaught Place in New Delhi. So um, the architect had done a very subtle, very, what do I say, white and,
Apple
very,
like this.
yes. Yes, and what they had done there was they'd used pastel colors as well, which was a unique thing for me because I generally see only whites in Apple
Yeah.
stores. So, so there was the use of this very light pine wood in the furniture, and there were some pastel colors on the walls. There were some acrylic sheets which were colored. So there was all the colors: pink, blue, yellow, green, and mauve. Right. So these colors were there, and so this was an Apple store which was against what I had ever seen. And it was a completely artificially lit space. There was no natural light anywhere. So in that place, the regeneration of color becomes very difficult because the wood is so light that all the colors are sort of casting their color onto everything else, right? And everything else is a white palette, and the artificial lights will always create these reflections and all that. So you see some pink on the white floor, you see some mauve on the wood. So there is always this very confusing sort of a situation. I think for that, I really had to go back and shoot a few shots in the only 1 hour of sunlight that entered that space, just a little corner, so that I took one shot without any lights, and then I got the real colors, and then I matched the entire set. So that the editing took a lot of time, but that is how natural light came to my rescue to sort of be able to capture what is the true color of a space. So sun is magical.
Session going through all the pictures that we did talk about because I'm very curious to look at all of them, then how they actually look.
Yeah, they're all there. I think they're all there in the profile somewhere, maybe down somewhere. Yeah, and they're
So
on
now
the
when
website
we
as well.
yeah. So now we're talking about the intentional use of color in photography.
Hmm.
So what do you believe that the intentional use of color in architecture photography affects the viewer's perspective as well?
Oh. I think I think color is deep rooted. Again, our first discussion that India is a colorful country. It's not just India. People are colorful. People are supposed to be colorful. Everything is not just white and yellow, right? There is a huge palette. Our eyes are able to see millions of colors. Why? To not see them? No, to see them and to comprehend them and to take in that color and represent it in our brain for whatever reasons that we want to. So when the question is that yeah, so when there is color in architecture, I have a feeling people are able to relate to it more. Okay, and that happens with this very inherent thing that what is your favorite color? Everybody asks this question, right? When we were kids, of course, and later on it becomes black or white. But that what is your favorite color? Somebody says green, somebody says yellow, somebody says black, somebody says blue. There is a reason to it, right? Because there is a certain inherent attraction to a certain color, and that sometimes reflects your personality. So it's not just we talking about big things today, it's ingrained inside our DNA how color will change things for us. The entire color theory suggests when you look at red, there is a passion instinct that is triggered. When you look at yellow, there is energy or excitement that is triggered. When you look at saffron, there is something else. When there is green, there is something else. When there is blue, there is calmness. When there is, so it is not hocus pocus, right? There is something. So color will always trigger emotions within you. And when architecture has it, it is doing so much more because it's a space where you can actually be. It's not just a plain wall or a 2D thing.
True.
So it's a space where, so it's an attack on your that element of emotion from all sides because you're inside that, right? So color is brilliant and it influences everything that we do or see. So photography, of course, has to justify that.
I think a person just not relates to a photography or picture with colors, but also remembers it.
Yeah.
I mean, very big aspect of remembering things.
Yeah. Visual memory, right? Visual
Yeah.
memory, as because we have got so many receptors of colors and all that. If we are able to, if we're putting them to use, only then we start to realize, oh, this was vibrant. Oh, that
Yeah.
was very vibrant. That was colorful. You know,
Like,
rainbows. Yeah,
I mean, I think whenever we remember clothes, it's just colors that we talk about. Most of the time, a lot of times we talk about buildings in form of colors.
yeah.
So yeah, I think colors act as a great memory and remembrance. Okay, so my
Of
last
course.
question: what is your favorite color?
Mine is golden yellow, like chrome yellow.
Okay.
It's just something.
Is it
Any
because
particular?
it gets
It's just I don't know why and when I developed a liking for this color because it just happened. I painted a wall in my room which was this bright yellow, like a chrome yellow and all that. And I just feel very connected to that color. Maybe fire element or something like that. I am a Leo. I get connected to fire a lot, and so that sort of excites me, give me energy. And it's just very random, but I don't know how to really justify it. But yeah.
uh,
I look for yellows in my photographs also.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Maybe it's like, photographers and the golden art sunlight and that golden shade of sunlight it gives
Ah,
pictures.
yeah, it gives brilliant pictures.
Yeah.
Brilliant pictures. Yeah, yeah.
That's nice. And yeah, it was this was an extremely cheerful and colorful session for me. I learned a lot. So
Thank you.
thank
Thank
you so much
you.
for being a part, and I hope we get to see all the pictures that we talked about
Yeah,
and
surely.
learn more.
They're all there, of course, and it was wonderful talking about a very different topic. Actually, I had never thought about it like this. So, a great initiative by you guys, and good luck for the rest
Thank,
of the talks.
thank you so much. Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye.